What is up, YouTube? So recently Pat the NES Punk did a video discussing the retro gaming documentary known as Rarity. Basically retro video game collecting in a modern era. Now, I recently myself watched this video too because I actually forgot all about it until his video came out. So thank you, Pat, for that, because I remember really wanting to watch this, and at the time it was only, I think, for special showing. And then it just kind of got put back on the back burner, and I forgot all about it. So Pat went on to talk about this, and then I watched through it, and, you know, I think he and Ian hit on a lot of points about it. So this isn't going to be 100% negativity toward this. Now, I like this documentary, and I loved a lot of the guys that are in this, because you had great people on there like John Riggs, Metal Jesus, Riff from Pixel Game Squad, AVGN, you know, the angry video game nerd himself. There's a few other, like Tyler from my retro. Oh god. But anyway, so a ton of great guys, and I love every one of these YouTubers. I love them to death and stuff like that. I watch all their stuff all the time, and then I would just went on to watch a lot of it, and of course they're more negative than I am with it, but some of the stuff I really loved about this, especially like when Riff was talking in the beginning and everything, was about the passion with collecting and stuff like that. So, you know, they talked about how I'm trying to. There's just so much like knowledge in my head about this, and just how, you know, breathtaking a lot of the stuff was seeing these guys' collections and talk about the passion with collecting. And I tried to make some notes on here. Oh, here we go. So one of my notes was I really enjoyed the talking about collecting that Riff did about nostalgia and how dangerous collecting can be. So they went on to talk, you know, about what nostalgia was to somebody, and really what nostalgia to me is what they almost talked about. Ian did during the thing about it being poison sometimes, but not necessarily completely nostalgia poisoning to me. So I like to be able to hold something from my youth and instantly be taken back to that time. So Riff talked about when he described, you know, nostalgia to somebody, and, you know, he would throw out a couple different ideas for them, and then he would say, you could tell by the look in their face about, they were like, oh yeah, I remember having that or that, but then he'd mention something that really like held them. They'd be like, oh yes, I remember that when I was younger, and blah blah blah, and they have stories about it. So that's what I love about nostalgia. So when I think about like Super Mario Bros. 3, I think about the hours I spent playing with my sister there, and then like at my grandparents' house, or when I got it for Christmas one year, and I just absolutely loved it. And when my uncle showed me how to get all the warp whistles and the first 2 warp whistles, and I just remember I have all these great memories about it, and that to me is nostalgia. And when Ian was talking about it in the podcast, he said that there is a such thing as nostalgia poisoning, or how we are stuck in the past. Nostalgia shouldn't be that way. It's a way to hold on to a key memory without forgetting it, and it should not be talking about how nowadays sucks, and how we are just going back and wanting to relive the golden days and forget all about the present or the future and just keep living in the past. Now that is a lot of nostalgia poisoning that I see with some people, and I was just like, really thinking about that stuff was like, wow, you know, how nostalgia is both good and bad. But when Riff described it like that, it really hit me. And now whenever anybody asks me why I collect video games or why I do something about this, it's because I'm very passionate about it. And not only that, but it is something that, you know, if you're having a bad day, you can almost come down here, and I remember somebody else talking about that in the documentary too. You're having a bad day, you can come down here or go to your area and grab something off the shelf and just instantly be, you know, video games to me was something that when I was shy and stuff as a kid, and I was very timid and stuff like that, and, you know, popping in a fantasy game and being a hero and doing all these great things and helping people out was something for me to escape from the torment of reality. And a lot of times now I love that still with video games to this day, and that's why I still play them. It's because it really brings me back to that. And, you know, I'm watching some of these YouTubers on here, like I was talking about Tyler with My Retro Life, and how his dad was able to basically catalog and record the collecting throughout the years from when he was a little kid all the way up until, you know, he passed away. And it was very amazing always to watch those videos and see how, you know, he could see the passion in him as a kid and all and get into collecting. And you can even see the passion in his dad, how he was so excited to share this bonding experience with his son. And I enjoy that nowadays too with my kid, and bringing them more into the modern area, but also, you know, showing them how retro games were too. So my youngest son actually has a mini Super Nintendo in his room, and he loves playing that thing. He loves playing Super Mario World. He loves playing Donkey Kong Country. And of course, you know, if I could put an Xbox One in there, he'd love that too. But as of right now, he is happy just having a TV and that system. So we play that together. We play NBA Jam and stuff like that. And just seeing the passion, because you can obviously tell by watching this documentary who is actually collectors, who is doing it for the money, and who didn't really care about it and stuff like that. And we'll kind of get into a little bit more with that. But now a little bit more onto the negative side. Like, once again, I got nothing against a lot of the YouTubers that did this, because like I said, I subscribe to all of them. I watch all their videos, I comment on all their stuff, and I respect and love their channels. But there was some part, I think it was about halfway through this documentary, that it really became like it had an agenda. And that might just be, you know, from watching Pat's video and getting to think more of it. But at one point, it almost seemed like it was becoming a WATA infomercial in the middle of it. Like, they really started to focus on WATA. And one of the guys on there basically outright said it too, that he thinks that WATA is a joke. That it's people are just adding money on, you know, it's hard to explain, guys. But he basically said that WATA is a joke, and it's not helping the people that want to collect and the people that love these games for themselves. It's basically bringing on greed from people. And you can see that because a little bit later on, there's supposedly this dentist guy, or I don't even remember. It was an awkward thing that he had for his title on there. But he has millions of dollars worth of games graded and said he's a collector. But while watching that thing, he just was awkward, and it just seemed to him like he was friends with whoever did this WATA stuff and this American Heritage stuff and all this else going on. And it just seemed like he was like, okay, I'm going to get into this market while it's young, make a bunch of money. And they even say at one point, too, that they said by the time this documentary came out, they're like, get your games graded. Get them graded now before it becomes, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's almost like they're really pushing for this. And Pat and them talked about that in this thing, how it just seemed like it was kind of weird that this documentary seemed to emerge slightly after, you know, that all that stuff happened with like Carl Jobs and stuff like that. And it really did seem kind of like, it was like, wow, this is kind of awkward now with this. They're really pushing this WATA guy. And I don't know, man, that whole section, like that guy that started WATA or whatever like that, he had some really cool stuff, but I don't know, that part of the documentary was really just off-putting for me. And like I said, they talked about how this is preserving video games. They're doing all this other stuff, but I mean, honestly, it just seems like a way for them to all to make money off of this. And if you really think about it, that guy that started WATA, yes, he has an amazing collection. I'm sure he's been collecting for years, but he's starting to do this stuff. He's got all this sealed stuff, like a sealed stadium events and stuff like this, and he has another copy, I think, of it, stadium events and you know, stuff like this. But the weird part about it is, if anything, it almost seems like, I don't know the correct term for it with stocks and stuff, but it seems like he's playing the market. He's trying to get all, yes, he's a collector and everything, but now if he keeps pushing this other stuff, he's essentially making his collection and value grow. And so it almost seems like, yes, he's playing the market a little bit, and that was kind of off-putting for me. And, you know, Ian and Pat talked about that. Like I put in my notes here as I was watching this, the WATA owner seems to be purposely doing this to inflate the market for money gains. The more the market goes up, the more money he will have because of his collection that he already has in there. I put in the one collector had good points as to why he thinks WATA is horrible. It's very bad for collectors, and it is. Because these people are seeing this Mario Brothers going graded, selling for $1 million. They're seeing all this other stuff selling for, you know, $200,000 or whatever. And they're thinking that, oh, wow, you know, my retro games are worth a lot. I'm going to pull out my stuff and go try and sell it for a bunch of money, and then it's just like just off-putting. And then, I mean, that's basically, I'm not saying this to just try and start fights with anybody about this, and like I said, it might have just been since I just watched the Pat and Ian podcast, and then I watched right after that I watched the documentary myself, and it might just be in my head, these thoughts and stuff like that. But I don't want to be like that guy that just wants to fight about everything now, but I love the documentary. I loved seeing, you know, some of my idols in the YouTube industry. Like I said, Pixel Game Squad, Metal Jesus, Tyler, I can never say his last name, but with My Ritual Life, John Riggs, all those guys are great, and I love seeing them in that stuff, and especially to get their name out. And it was really cool seeing how these guys had all these different takes on some of the stuff. But yeah, it's just like those are honestly just my opinions on it, and I'd like to know what you guys thought in the comments below. Now I know this Rarity documentary is more seeable. Now I was able to find it on YouTube to watch it. Loved most of it. Like I said, there's a few points that I didn't, but these are just my opinions in general, guys. I want to know what you guys think below in the comments too. So make sure that you guys hit me up below. If you guys, like I said, if you have not watched it, go ahead and just search for it on YouTube, and I'm sure you'll find it somewhere. And I really hope that nobody took this video as being completely negative about this stuff, because I've wanted to do a video about what I thought about WADA and stuff too, because these people are talking about how this is good for the community, it's good for modern gaming and stuff like that. But a lot of people were saying that too about trading cards, like sports cards specifically. And I feel like once they started grading sports cards, the rest of the cards became worthless. And people, you know, like me, who collected cards then, did not want to collect cards anymore, because unless they were graded, nobody wanted nothing to do with the stuff, and that really sucks, and it really starts hurting the hobby. And to the point too that I think they talk about nowadays, that sports cards are almost on the way out. It could be, you know, a decade from now, and there might not even be sports cards anymore because of all this stuff happening with the communities and with the grading and stuff like that. And I have a feeling that down the road, that's either going to help retro gamer collectors like me, that WADA bubble is going to pop and everything's going to go down. Well, it probably won't go down. I honestly don't think that the retro gaming market is ever going to go down now. It might, sometime the bubble might pop and it might just stay the same, but I honestly do not think that the games are going to be like they were one time, where you could find them at garage sales for $2, $3 and stuff like that. I think they're all with the conception of this being the modern age of technology and stuff like that, and having a phone in your hand at all times, you were able to look at eBay, you were able to do stuff like that. The only luck you will get is if you go to some flea market or estate sale and some grandma doesn't know any better and she's just selling them for that cheap. But I really do not like WADA, but it is what it is. Like I said, it's my opinions, and I'm not going to not respect somebody else because of their, you know, if they like having graded games. I mean, if you like to have graded games, that's cool, man. It's just not for me, and that's what the one guy kind of said on there too. He's like, it's just, I collect what I want. I don't need the game I have to be worth 1,000 times more than what it is. I have what I like, and that's what I want. So that's kind of what I collect. So that's my opinions on that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video talking about this. Like I said, please make sure you check out this documentary, because for the most part, for 90% of it, it is great. I loved it, and I really regret not seeing it sooner. And I know you guys, if you're really into the retro collecting, and you'll want to see it too, because there are some great opinions in there, and there are some great talks about there. And like I said, Riff has really got the passion. You can always see it, and I always see that every time he does any kind of talking with videos and stuff like that. He just really loves the retro collecting, whether it be with video games or shirts now and VHSs and Marvel. It's really great to see that, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment below what you think, and make sure you go see that documentary, guys. You will love it. Peace out.
Nostalgia is such an interesting thing to me, because so many people place it in different categories.
Nostalgia for me definitely brings me back to when I was younger, when I didn't ache, before I had responsibilities, before I had a full-time job.
It's like a microwave. You're reheating leftovers. Nostalgia is the leftovers. You remember it being so good, it was such a great meal, but it's never going to be as good as it was when you first had the meal.
I finally
Back then I put tons of time, tons of energy, tons of love into getting a box, opening it, smelling it, feeling it, reading these guides, these books. Everything in my mind is vivid. Even looking back at consoles, old boxes, when you see Super Nintendo boxes now, they're bright, everything's crazy.
The reason I wanted to go back and play these old games and collect them, I had a deeper connection with them, I had a more intimate experiences playing with them. I thought they were just more well-made games, like core gameplay. You start to connect certain games with certain people you played them with back in the day, like your friend down the block.
Physical media is something that I think is kind of dying away a little bit. You know, you see these streamers and people that are playing games, there's barely anything on the table, and you know, everyone kind of thinks of like a retro gamer or a collector as messy almost. For somebody who's a collector, I want to collect the physical media, like I want to have the case with the game inside of it so I can just know it, hug it and hold it.
What do we care about, right? We care about pop culture, especially in America. Like, it's so American. It's Americana. Like, having physical products, you know, it was capitalism. I mean, 70s, 80s, 90s, think of how many toys came out, how many actual physical products. And us now trying to actually get that stuff back is a representation of preserving culture. Preserving the culture that matters to us, the culture that we grew up with.
I've seen collecting destroy people.
There's a dark side where it can interrupt relationships.
I wouldn't recommend to the common person to fill up an entire room in their house of video games or movies or anything, which is what I do. I mean, we all have our own personal reasons for doing it. It's more of it's a niche thing. So, I mean, nobody does this because this is the thing to do. We just do it because we want to in some way or another, and we may all have our different reasons.